The first time my phone rang that morning, I ignored it. In my world, phones rang for profit, for damage control, for deals worth more than some countries' GDP. They didn't ring for anything that mattered. By the third call, I finally glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I almost declined it again. Something, maybe boredom, maybe fate, made me swipe. Hello. There was silence on the other end. Not the polished silence of business hesitation. This was small. Breathing. Unsure. Then a child's voice. "Can you pick me up, Dad?" The word hit me harder than any market crash ever had. Dad. I stood up so abruptly that my chair rolled back and hit the glass wall of my office. "You have the wrong number," I said automatically. There was a pause. Papers shuffling. A sniff. "No," the child said softly. "This is the number my mom wrote down. She said if anything ever happened, I should call you." My pulse roared in my ears. "I think you're mistaken," I said, my voice suddenly dry. "Who is this?" "My name is Ion." The name meant nothing to me. But the way he said it, careful, like he expected rejection, did something I didn't like. "Where is your mother?" I asked. Another pause. She didn't wake up. The room tilted. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window of my skyscraper office and looked down at the city I owned in pieces: real estate, hotels, tech firms. I could buy hospitals. I could buy governments. But I couldn't breathe. "Where are you right now?" I asked, my voice quieter. "At school," he said. "They said I can't stay after today. The lady from the office is here." I closed my eyes. "What school?" He told me. It was across town. A public school in a district I'd only ever driven through with tinted windows. "I'll be there," I heard myself say. The words felt reckless. "I knew you would," he whispered. The drive felt longer than any overseas flight I'd ever taken. I kept replaying his voice. "Dad." It was impossible. I didn't have children. I'd built my life carefully, no attachments, no loose ends. Relationships had always been temporary, strategic, or carefully avoided. But as my car stopped outside the small brick school, something inside me felt less certain. The building was worn. Paint peeling. A chain-link fence slightly bent near the corner. Children were spilling out in noisy waves. And then I saw him. He stood apart from the others, a small backpack hanging off one shoulder. Dark hair falling into his eyes. He held a crumpled piece of paper in his hand and scanned every car that passed. He looked familiar. My driver opened the door for me. Heads turned immediately. Suits, polished shoes, the kind of presence that didn't belong here. The school secretary approached first, a nervous woman clutching a clipboard. "Mr. Karim?" she asked. I nodded. Her eyes darted between me and the boy. "He says you're his father." I looked at the child. Ion met my gaze without flinching. In his eyes, I saw something that made my chest tighten. My own eyes. The same sharp cut at the corners. The same deep brown that almost looked black. "This is a misunderstanding," I started. But Ion stepped forward. "My mom's name was Sarah Malik," he said. The name hit like a blow. Sarah. Years ago. Before the billions. Before the empire. She'd been the only person who knew me before I became Mr. Karim. She'd left suddenly. Or so I'd thought. "You said you didn't want children," Ion continued, his voice steady. "She said you were scared of being poor again." The world narrowed. Sarah had been pregnant. And she hadn't told me. Or had she tried? The secretary cleared her throat gently. Sir, child services has been contacted. We couldn't reach any other relatives. Ayan's fingers tightened around the paper. If you don't want me, he said quickly, it's okay. I didn't know who else to call. Something inside me, something buried under years of steel and ambition, cracked. I'd spent my entire life running from the boy I used to be. The boy who waited outside schools because his father never came. The boy who promised himself he'd never depend on anyone. And now, in front of me, stood a child waiting for me to decide whether he was worth something. I'll take him, I said. The words felt terrifying. But also, right. The car ride back was silent at first. Ayan sat rigidly in the leather seat, hands folded in his lap like he was afraid to touch anything. This is your car? He asked eventually. Yes. He nodded slowly. Are you rich? The bluntness almost made me laugh. Yes. He absorbed that quietly. Mom said you would be. I swallowed. She talked about me? Sometimes, he said. Mostly when she thought I was asleep. The weight of those words pressed down on me. I didn't know about you, I said carefully. I know, he replied. No accusation. Just fact. That hurt more. My penthouse overlooked the entire skyline. Marble floors. Art worth millions. Silence that echoed. Ayan stood just inside the doorway. Can I take off my shoes? He asked. You don't have to. He hesitated anyway and slipped them off. He walked through the living room slowly, as if he'd entered a museum. Is this all yours? He whispered. Yes. He nodded. Then, can I live here? The question was so simple it shattered me. Yes, I said. For the first time, his face lit up fully. And I saw it again, my smile. The weeks that followed were chaos. Lawyers. DNA tests. Paperwork. The results confirmed what my heart had already accepted. He was my son. Sarah had died from an undiagnosed aneurysm in her sleep. No warning. She'd raised him alone, but she'd never asked me for money. Never tried to claim anything. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or ashamed. Probably both. Ayan started school near my home. Private. Elite. He hated it. They don't talk like me, he said one evening, pushing food around his plate. How do they talk? Like they've never shared anything. I paused. And you have? He shrugged. Mom said if you have 2 cookies and someone has none, you really have one. Sarah. Always too kind for this world. The next morning, I did something unexpected. I cancelled 3 meetings. Then I drove him back to his old school. The principal stared at me like I was a hallucination. I'd like to fund renovations, I said. New equipment. After-school programs. Scholarships. Her mouth opened and closed. Why? She asked finally. I looked at the playground where Ayan was laughing with children who ran toward him without hesitation. Because this is where my son learned to be kind. Fatherhood didn't transform me overnight. I still made ruthless decisions in boardrooms. But at home, something softened. I started coming back earlier. Started listening. One night, I found Ayan sitting on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Are you sad? I asked. A little, he admitted. Why? I wish Mom could see this. I sat beside him. She can, I said, though I didn't know if I believed it. He leaned against my arm. Are you glad I called? He asked quietly. The honesty in that question undid me. Yes, I said, my voice rough. It was the most important call of my life. He nodded. I was scared, he confessed. I thought maybe you'd hang up. I closed my eyes briefly. I almost did. He looked up at me. But you didn't, he said. No, I agreed. I didn't. Months later, I was invited to speak at a business summit. They expected strategies, market insights, growth projections. Instead, I told them about a phone call. I told them about a small voice asking to be picked up. I told them that for years I believed success meant never needing anyone. And then, I said, looking out at a sea of executives, a child taught me that real wealth isn't what you build alone. It's who waits for you. At the door. There was silence. Then applause. But none of it mattered. Because when I walked off that stage, Ayan was waiting in the front row. He ran to me without hesitation. Dad, he shouted. I knelt and caught him. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a man who had everything. I felt like a father who almost lost the only thing that truly mattered. That night, as I tucked him into bed, he looked up at me sleepily. Can you pick me up tomorrow too? He asked. From school? From anywhere, he murmured. I brushed his hair back. Always, I said. Because sometimes the most shocking call isn't the one that changes your schedule. It's the one that changes your heart. And I will always be grateful that I answered.